Growing up, I had dreams and aspirations, but always felt like the kid that didn't fit in. For the most part, I wasn't a bad kid, but when I made the transition into adulthood, I turned to the streets for guidance. This led to getting locked up in juvenile hall, doing time in CYA, and eventually a 120-month sentence in federal prison. I had a lot of time to think and reflect during my federal sentence, so I share with you what I learned, hoping I can positively influence someone else's life with Prison Talk. What's up, everybody? This is Big Herc in Prison Talk. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. As you can see, it's the holiday time, and it brings holiday cheeks. So we got some stories to share with you guys from the fans, questions actually. If you haven't checked out our website, do so at www.FreshOutSeries.com. If you got a question, shoot us an email at FreshOutSeries@gmail.com. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube, which is Fresh Out Series, Life After the Penitentiary, and also our Instagram and Twitter, and our Patreon, which is Fresh Out Series. Had a question from one of our viewers. What's up, Big Herc? I had a two-part question for you. I grew up in a bad area with a lot of various gangs of all different races and types. My friend and I, who are big fans of the Fresh Out series, had a debate over this. Pretty much, we were curious to know how biker gangs operate in prison. There are both black and white biker gangs in my hometown who interact with the other gangs like the BDs, the GDs, Bloods, and Crips, etc. The main ones are the Zulus, a black biker gang, and the Hells Angels, who are obviously predominantly white and notoriously racist. Do these gangs fall under different gangs when they get down, or do they have their own clique inside? I've never seen any other white gang depicted on TV or in movies besides the Brand, which made us want to ask that question in the first place. Also want to know if you ever run across anyone famous while you served your time. Sorry for the long questions. Big fan of the series. I also like to remain anonymous. Thanks, big homie. Stay up. As far as how the biker gangs operate, I've done time with bikers who are one percenters, both Hells Angels and the Mongols. And, you know, Mongols, a Mexican biker gang, they pretty much associated with the Southsiders, the Serranos. The Hells Angel, he kicked it with the white boys, you know. And basically, as far as the hierarchy is concerned, it's more or less based on what that person's credibility is on the street, and maybe what they've done in the pen or what their history consists of. I was cool with both of them. You know, we couldn't actually hang out and kick it or work out together, but because of the way I carried myself, I had mutual respect, and I'm actually still in touch with both the individuals. We're still cool to this day. You know, we chop it up on occasions, but you know, there wasn't, you know, as far as being a biker, they didn't have their own particular clique in the pen. You know, a lot of the cliques in the pen are based on racial. So if a person was per se a black biker and he went to the pen, he wouldn't necessarily represent that biker gang in the pen, but he would be associated with his race in the pen, depending on what area he's from. He's from the Bay Area, he'd probably be with the Bay Car. If he was from LA, he'd be with whatever association he had with whatever particular gang on the street that was also in the pen. Because, you know, in certain pens, in the state especially, you know, numbers are a factor. So, you know, everybody kind of puts a lot of things to the side, and the blacks roll with the blacks, you know, the white guys roll with the white guys, and then you have the Norteños and the Serranos, you know, and basically numbers are what control the demographics of the pen. But as far as, you know, interaction and, you know, how these individuals would get down, you know, I wasn't part of any biker gang, so I can't speak on the particulars, and I'm not in a position to speak on particulars of the Hells Angels, and to say that they're racist. You know, they don't have blacks in their gang, but I was cool with, you know, an HA that was very respectful. He, you know, handled his business, and I'm still cool with him. You know what I mean? And he was never racist towards me. So I can't say he was racist. At the same time, I was cool with a guy who was a Mongol who was pretty high up, and he was a Mexican from Southern California, but they're not supposed to associate with blacks, but we were still cool. So a lot of times, it's all about how you carry yourself, but, when you're dealing with the masses and you're dealing with politics and a lot of these things, those play a factor on how things carry out or play themselves out in the institutions. The feds, a little bit different. Like I said, the state, way more racial, and you would never see a white guy and a black guy kicking it. You would never see a Southern Mexican kicking it with a black guy from Northern California, or or Cripper or anything like that. It's just, it's different, But in the feds, because of just the level of maturity, I would say, because a lot of guys are in there for getting money or interstate commerce or something of that nature, it's a different mentality to some degree. And if you were making moves on the street and a lot of these guys respect those moves, then you'll have open dialogue to some degree in the pen, and you'll be able to have a little bit of conversation here and there. And like I said, in the feds, it's just a totally different program, because of you'll have guys, white guys teaching real estate classes, Mexican guys teaching Spanish classes or GED classes. And so it's just a different mix, you know what I mean? Because people are somewhat educating others on different aspects of whether it be business, schooling, or things of that nature. But, like I said, it all depends on whether or not you're in the state or feds. So I wouldn't say everybody's racist, even though racism exists. But I hope that answers your questions as far as the biker gangs are concerned. And as far as anyone famous, not really. I wasn't in there with any rappers or anything like that, or anybody that you would know of. Most of the people I did time with were street famous. They were infamous in their particular cities or neighborhoods or states, but they weren't famous as far as celebrity status, what you see on TV that's commercial. These guys were the real deal, and they were, famous for having made a lot of money in maybe the drug game, maybe robbing a lot of banks, maybe laundering a bunch of money or embezzling a bunch of money. But that's the kind of famous I ran across, guys of that nature. I ran across a big mob boss in there, a couple of mafia guys that were big time, some big drug dealers from back east, some big drug dealers from California, major bank robbers from the Bay Area. Those are the type of famous people I ran across, but they're not famous to the sense that they're rapping about it or singing about it, or you would hear about them being talked about on TMZ. Not that kind of famous, but that's about the extent of the famous people that I did time with. Lockdown's over. Get your yard time in. Exclusively at FreshOutSeries.com.